Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most alarming and shocking stories that is shaking Europe and the rest of the world. The news that Russia's secret war has reached beyond Ukraine and spilled into Poland is one of the most serious developments in recent years, bringing NATO directly into the conversation and forcing the West to consider how it will respond. This is not just another story of regional conflict. This is the kind of moment that can shift the course of history. And in this review, we will be examining every layer of the unfolding situation. We will look at how the crisis presents itself on the exterior stage, what the interior dynamics inside Europe and NATO are, how both Russia and NATO are performing in this shadow war, what safety features are being applied to protect civilians and prevent escalation, the unique elements that make this situation unlike anything before, the enormous price being paid by nations involved, and finally, where this road might lead. From the exterior perspective, what the world is witnessing right now is a Europe that looks increasingly like it is on fire. On the surface, there are missile strikes, mysterious explosions near pipelines and critical infrastructure, and reports of drones crossing into Polish territory. These external events paint a picture of instability and deliberate provocation. The attacks are not always large or spectacular, but their symbolism is powerful. Each incident raises questions. Is this a test? Is this an accident? Or is it part of a much larger hidden war strategy designed to confuse, destabilize, and weaken Europe's eastern borders? The exterior scene is one of constant tension, where each day brings new flashes of violence that keep governments, militaries, and ordinary citizens on edge. Internally, within Poland and across NATO headquarters, the atmosphere is just as intense, though quieter. Inside government offices, emergency meetings are being held, and leaders are consulting with generals and intelligence chiefs about what moves to make next. Internally, the NATO alliance is testing its own unity. Will every member stand together if Poland is proven to have been attacked? Will there be hesitation, or will the alliance act with strength and speed? Inside Poland itself, civilians carry on their daily lives, but many are aware that decisions being made in Warsaw and Brussels could determine whether their towns and cities will remain peaceful or become front lines in a larger war. The interior picture is one of pressure, responsibility, and preparation, where decisions must be made with extreme caution because one wrong move could ignite a larger fire. Performance is another lens through which this secret war can be analyzed. Russia's performance in this shadow conflict has been defined by hybrid warfare. It is not simply tanks rolling across borders. It is cyberattacks that shut down systems, propaganda that spreads confusion and division, sabotage that interrupts energy flows, and targeted strikes that create fear. Russia's performance is one of unpredictability, keeping NATO guessing and forcing it to constantly react. On the other hand, NATO's performance is measured, deliberate, and rooted in deterrence. NATO has been showcasing air patrols over Eastern Europe, conducting military drills near Poland, and putting rapid response forces on standby. NATO's performance is about signaling strength without escalating into full-scale war, unless absolutely necessary. Both sides are performing their strategies in a kind of dangerous dance, where the stakes are nothing less than European security. Safety features in this conflict are not about airbags or warning lights, but about defensive shields and protective systems. Poland and the rest of NATO's eastern flank rely heavily on missile defense systems, radar early warning technology, and integrated command structures to keep them safe. These systems are the backbone of security against any sudden attack. NATO also relies on Article 5, the collective defense principle that means an attack on one member is an attack on all. This is perhaps the most powerful safety feature of all, because it is designed to deter Russia from pushing too far. Safety for civilians includes evacuation drills, alerts, and constant monitoring of airspace to ensure that people can be warned if anything crosses into NATO skies. The world hopes these safety measures remain preventative rather than being tested in a real and devastating war. What makes this situation unique and what could be called its selling point is the fact that it pushes the limits of the current global order. Until now, the war in Ukraine, while tragic and destructive, has been limited to one country. The world could frame it as a regional conflict, albeit one with global consequences. But the moment incidents occur in Poland, a NATO member, the boundaries change. This is no longer just about Ukraine. It is about the credibility of NATO, the trust among its members, and the willingness of the West to enforce the promises it has made for decades. This uniqueness lies in the fact that Russia seems willing to test those boundaries, gambling that NATO might not respond strongly. The unique factor is that this is not just a military contest, but a psychological one. Who will blink first, who will show weakness, and who will demonstrate the will to stand firm? The price of this conflict is enormous and cannot be understated. Economically, Europe has already paid dearly in the form of energy shortages, rising prices, and disruptions to trade. The fear of escalation has rattled markets across the globe, from oil to food supplies. Governments are being forced to pour billions into military spending, strengthening borders, buying new defense systems, and preparing for the worst. For Poland, the price is also the constant sense of vulnerability, the fear that the war that has devastated Ukraine might suddenly arrive at its doorstep. For Russia, the price comes in the form of crushing sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and the long-term weakening of its economy and international influence. The global economy, already fragile, carries the burden of this price as well. This conflict, whether in shadow form or in open war, is costing the world more each day. As the crisis develops, Europe finds itself in a position where the future is uncertain, but undeniably dangerous. The exterior shows us explosions, cyberattacks, and hybrid operations spreading fear. The interior reveals leaders making high-stakes decisions under pressure, knowing that millions of lives depend on their choices. The performance of Russia and NATO reflects two very different strategies, one of unpredictable hybrid warfare, the other of structured deterrence and readiness. The safety features remind us of NATO's defensive shield, its early warning systems, and the promise of collective defense. The unique nature of this conflict lies in its potential to redefine the balance of power in Europe, testing the credibility of NATO like never before. The price being paid is staggering, not just in money, but in fear, uncertainty, and the risk of escalation that could drag the entire continent into open war. Looking further into the broader implications, the secret war narrative is not just about military incidents, but about reshaping geopolitical dynamics. If Russia succeeds in destabilizing Poland or undermining NATO's confidence, the consequences could ripple far beyond Europe. It would signal to the world that alliances built over decades are vulnerable, that commitments may not hold under pressure, and that power can shift through covert means. On the other hand, if NATO responds with unity, strength, and clarity, the message to the world will be that aggression cannot go unchecked, and that international security systems still work. This is why every incident, every decision, and every action is so significant. They are not isolated events. They are building blocks of a future order that will determine whether Europe remains safe or plunges deeper into chaos. In conclusion, the unfolding secret war is a reminder that history is being written in real time. Europe is on fire, not with literal flames everywhere, but with the heat of tension, fear, and uncertainty. Russia's actions are bold, provocative, and dangerous, while NATO's response is careful, determined, and deliberate. The stakes are enormous, and the risks even greater. The world watches as Poland becomes the front line of this shadow conflict, a place where the line between peace and war grows thinner by the day. Whether this escalates into a larger confrontation or remains contained as a warning sign depends on the decisions made now. The only certainty is that Europe stands on the edge of a new era, one that will be defined by how this crisis is resolved